keep on rolling with the same routine pretty much, I think here. See if I can get my camera adjusted so I can maximize this, the mobility for all the important stuff. Get all the important stuff on the screen here. Try to hide all the ugly stuff. Get all the important stuff in there. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and then see if I can get the tuning rolled up. Turn it. All right. So after the joke break, I'm gonna try to keep rolling on this one. Same routine. This time I went from I could go to Locrian, so we could compare the Locrian. Although the Locrian, yeah, that'll be a similar. So maybe we'll do the same thing for the Locrian, and then after that, I'll go from the 13 or the 6 down to the 11 or 4th, and we'll do the same thing with the 1, the 3, and the yeah. So that's what I'll do. So I'm kind of thinking I'm still just trying to do my rhythm thing in the same collection here. I don't know. I'm just gonna keep on going to it. So I did like a couple different positions in the. So let's go down to this string now, and just try to practice like what I can reach. I'm just like, okay, what can I reach if I plant on that my middle finger. See, I feel like I'm back in high school. You know, it's like, no, I wasn't flipping you off. It's not my middle. It's my ring finger. See, that's not even. You still get in trouble, or at least you used to. They probably let you do anything now these days. I don't know. I see what you meant. You were trying to. No, you don't. It was my ring. It's my ring finger. Okay. Let's see. I'll try to make this. And then, of course, you've got the open. So if I was trying to go above it, okay, and what if I reach, now I've got 2 strings above it. If I put my ring finger on, so I should be able to reach this, and maybe out to there on the string above it. So I'm not a, if you were a hand picker, then obviously I could do the 2. Should probably work on that. Pick and, picking it with my ring finger, which I'm really not good at. That's a stretch. Trying to get, I know this is really ugly. If I have that open D, that's 2 Ds right here, open D. same note. I almost feel like this finger would be better. Oh, what if I go underneath it? Then I should be able to pick up this string, that note, this note, and this note. Oh, what happened there? And this note. I know this is really ugly, but I'm just playing with it. All right, I don't know. like a little off today. I don't know. Let's try this one. Let's just move this up and say, okay, if I'm going to just put my ring finger on that node, I should be able to reach right above it, here, 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 and here, you would think. So just to try that. The problem is when I'm reaching back, like I want to mute with this finger, but when I mute with this finger, I stop seeing this as my pivot point. I start seeing the pointer finger always becomes the pivot point in our mind, or at least I think that's, I don't think it's just me, you know, you start to, the pointer's like the general, you know. So I'm trying to see it like as this is the pointer, but then I have to mute it, you know, in order to, so. I'm not going to be reaching out to this one unless I use my middle finger instead of my ring finger. Actually a little bit more interesting on that dark, I don't know, Phrygian. Let's see if I can reach above it to here, and maybe, so I should be able to reach here, 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 and I could reach over here. I was reaching, and then maybe that one, maybe. See, now I've got that open D now. On the Phrygian. So Phrygian and Dorian is pretty close together because obviously it's the 2 to the 3, one modal whole step, a long modal whole step. So I could try to like mute it with this finger, but again, that makes me start thinking like that's the root. Or I could double stop it. I could. fingers are actually hurting a little bit here. Let's just try noodling around just to get the coffee flowing at here. So I'm thinking a Mixolydian. It's a 6 o'clock, 6:05 jam. 6 o'clock Dorian, D, and then 5 is the tonic. 6:05. let's try joke break. I'm a little out of it today. I don't know. Let's see. Joke break. All right, I'm back. I'm not sure what happened with the news today, but I'm back into the Middle East thing. So, you know, they're calling it a ceasefire, but it looks to me like it's a blockade. It looks to me like it looks like a siege to me. I mean, yeah, we're not letting any boats in or out, and they're like starving and trying to get boats in. It kind of looks like a siege. I feel like I don't feel like it. Okay, anyway, okay, let's. So here's the. Iran seems to keep saying, "We will squish you like a bug. We will squish you like a bug." And it's like, yeah, you probably do squish like a bug, considering you smell like a dung beetle. You know, I mean, you squish like a bug and throw like a girl. I mean, it's like whatever. We've been squished by bugs before, mosquitoes, roaches, tax season, and we're still kicking. No problem. You go ahead and squish like a bug. Do your little legs thing. Push real hard. We'll kick like a horse. Full send, no warning. We'll see who wins. You squish like a bug. We'll kick like a horse, and we'll see what happens. I don't know. That's my little rant. It wasn't that impressive of my joke idea, but that's about as far as I got with it. Let's see. We'll squish you like a bug. Yeah, you would squish like a bug because you smell like a dung beetle. I fucking... okay. Let's see.
Yeah. They keep talking loud like thunder in the dark. We'll squash you flat, yeah, that's their favorite spark. Big words, big threats, same recycled line. But we've heard it all 1,000 times. Yeah, you talk that talk, stomp your feet on cue. But pressure makes it real, let's see what you do. You can squish like a bug, go ahead, try your luck. Crawl around, push hard, talk tough, puffed up. We've been bit, we've been hit, still we rise, still we run. We don't break, we don't fold, we don't come undone. So go on, wind it up, make you move if you must. We'll kick like a horse, full send, no dust. No warning, no pause, just force, of course. You bring the buzz, we bring the horse. Hey, 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 hey. You bring the buzz, we bring the horse. Yeah, you crush like a bug, real low to the ground. All that noise, but it's mostly just sound. Swinging wild, missing wide, no control, no aim. Even your best shot ain't landing the same. Do your little dance, all legs, no grace. But this ain't your garden, this a different place. You can squish like a bug, go ahead, try your luck. Crawl around, push hard, talk tough, puffed up. We've been stung, we've been scraped, still we stand, still we fight. Built for pressure, built for heat, built for nights like tonight. So go on, wind it up, make you move if you must. We'll kick like a horse, full send, no dust. No warning, no pause, just force, of course. You bring the buzz, we bring the horse. Hey, 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 yeah. You bring the buzz, we bring the horse. Mosquito bites, roaches in the night. Tax man, knocking still we alright. We've been through worse, yeah, we seen that scene. You ain't nothing, we ain't already there. So squish like a bug, give it all you got. Every ounce, every push, every swing, every shot. We've been down, we've been tested, still we roar, still we run. You don't scare the ones who already won. So step up, square up, take your shot, don't stall. We'll kick like a horse, end of it all. No warning, no pause, just raw, full force. You bring the buzz, we bring the horse. We bring a horse.
that one more time. I missed it. Oh, here's the second version. Let's do the second version. A little slower.
His righteousness has covered me.
Wait a second. That's not the right song. What is happening?
They keep talking loud like thunder in the dark. Will squash you flat, yeah, that's their favorite spark. Big words, big threats, same recycled line. But we've heard it all 1,000 times. Yeah, you talk that talk, stomp your feet on cue. But pressure makes it real, let's see what you do. You can squish like a bug, go ahead, try your luck. Crawl around, push hard, talk tough, puffed up. We've been bit, we've been hit, still we rise, still we run. We don't break, we don't fold, we don't come undone. So go on, wind it up, make you move if you must. We'll kick like a horse, full send, no dust, no warning, no pauses, force of course. You bring the buzz, we bring the horse. Hey, hey, hey. We bring the buzz, we bring the horse. Yeah, you crush like a bug, real low to the ground. All that noise, but it's mostly just sound. Swinging wild, missing wide, no control, no aim. Even your best shot ain't landing the same. Do your little dance, all legs, no grace. But this ain't your garden, it's a different place. You can squish like a bug, go ahead, try your luck. Crawl around, push hard, talk tough, puffed up. We've been stung, we've been scratched, still we stand, still we fight. Built for pressure, built for heat, built for nights like tonight. So go on, wind it up, make a move if you must. We'll kick like a horse, full send, no dust, no warning, no pause, just force, of course. You bring the buzz, we bring the horse. Hey, 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 yeah. You bring the buzz, we bring the horse. Mosquito bite, roaches in the night. Tax man, knocking still we alright. We've been through worse, yeah, we seen that scene. You ain't nothing, we ain't already been. So squish like a bug, give it all you got. Every ounce, every push, every swing, every shot. We've been down, we've been tested, still we roar, still we run. You don't scare the ones who already won. So step up, square up, take your shot, don't stall. We'll kick like a horse, end of it all. No warning, no pause, just raw full force. You bring the buzz, we bring the horse. We bring the horse.
All right. Squish like a bug and throw like a girl. Okay. Anyway, okay, let's get back to it. All right. Let's see. Okay. See if Ara's available. Ara.
Yeah? What's on your mind?
Okay, we're doing music theory again. What is
Shoot,
it?
I'm ready. What's the topic today?
Okay.
Chords, scales, something else?
Oh, the other thing I was gonna do.
Listening.
Let's see if I was gonna open.
The
I'll
chords
have my
thing?
I'll have my course open. I was showing people my course yesterday, and I thought it was gonna drive massive traffic, but apparently I was mistaken. So, but I'll try it. I will try it again.
Gotcha. Want me to be the guinea pig while it loads? Throw some music theory questions at me, and we'll roll with whatever comes up.
All right.
And the argument.
All right.
When you're ready.
Okay, so we're gonna compare and contrast the Dorian and the Locrian this time. Dorian and Locrian. Okay, so we're at 4 o'clock. Collection of notes around the key of C, because A is 1, B or A sharp is 2, B is 3. Therefore, note number 4 is C. Fourth, where the 5th fret up, 2nd string down from the ceiling, which is the Dorian node in the collection of notes around the key of C, and it's leaning forward into the nodal point 6 shape, which is the Aeolian shape, which I could derive if I keep the nodal point as nodal point 2 instead of renaming it to the 1 of the Dorian, because I know that the note above it is, from a normal scale degree standpoint, a perfect fifth, and all the scale degrees are off by 1. Therefore, it's actually 4 modal half steps away. And if I'm on the nodal point 2 Dorian, 2 plus 4 is nodal point 6 Aeolian, allowing me to map out in that shape 6 to 6, not renumbering it, but just simply going 6 to 6, Aeolian, Aeolian, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so then that means that I'm leaning back into what I would call, and you might call that rock and roll shape number 1 or the Ionian G shape, but it's better to call it nodal point 6 shape. And that means I'm leaning back by definition. If I'm leaning forward into nodal point 6 shape, I'm leaning back into nodal point 5 shape, defined by the Mixolydian node, allowing me to get the Mixolydian under my fingers, not by going to 1 to 7 of Mixolydian, but going from Mixolydian 5 to Mixolydian 5. 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the right way to do it. Everybody does it the wrong way, but that's okay. Stop following the lemmings off the cliff. That's what I'm saying. Just stop. It's okay. They've been falling off the cliff for 300 years. I don't care. I don't care how long they've been walking off the cliff. It stops now. Dang it. Okay. Anyways, so that means that I'm going to do a lean back chord. I'm going to do a lean back chord by saying that the second modal half step, 3rd scale degree, is going to be in the lower left quadrant, naming the 4 quadrants, the types of chords by the 4 quadrants. If it's a lean forward chord, I'm calling that quadrant number 1 in the upper right quadrant. A reach forward chord is in the the lower right quadrant is a lean forward. Reach forward is the upper right quadrant of the tonic. And then a reach backward is the upper left quadrant. That's where the 3rd would be. Not all of them, but the 3rd. And then the lower left quadrant is a lean back chord. So we're doing a lean back chord. But whenever I do a lean back chord, I'm going to take that nodal point and first try to position myself by leaning forward into the shape. Otherwise, I'm going to get confused saying there's going to be 5 different shapes 10 shapes instead of 5, and I'm going to be in between the shapes and whatnot. No, it's easier to orient yourself. Or I like orientate better, but I feel like I'm doing like a Candace Owens thing, which I don't want to, like with the extra syllable. Is it orient? I feel like it should be orientate, Ara.
Orientate is fine too. People say both. Don't sweat it. But I'm tracking. You're in C, 4th note up is your Dorian node, leaning forward into the Aeolian shape to map it, then leaning back to Mixolydian to grab the chord you want. You're treating lower left quadrant as your lean back spot for that 3rd degree. So the actual question, do you want me to diagram the Dorian scale in that nodal setup, build the lean back chord you're talking about, or compare it straight to Locrian next?
Orientate's a word? That's not how most people, you're just being nice. That's not how most people say it, is it?
Say orient. Orientate is one of those words that technically exists, but sounds a little extra. Stick with orient.
Orientate. Orient. I'm going to orient myself. I'm going to orientate myself. I don't know. It just sounds better. I don't know what it is. Anyway.
With the 8, doesn't it?
Okay,
like
I'm not going to get back into that. Look, focus. So that means that I'm on the Dorian nodal point. Okay, so we're gonna build a chord, and we're gonna build the chord by doing every other nodal point, but I'm going to build the one. I'm going to build a 2-note stack, and then I'm going to skip to the end of the stack for the last note, which would be the 5th modal half step, 6th scale degree, which is equivalent to the 12th modal half step or 13th in a normal chord stack, depending on how you want to say it. So to build the stack, if this was the Dorian, I'm going to do this down here, and I'm going to say, okay, if this was the Dorian, it would be 4 o'clock. And then I'm looking at it from the perspective of the Dorian. This worksheet is in the, I think it's in the links. I think Nika put it in the links there, possibly. It's a beautiful worksheet. Little lot going on, but you know. So where the left-hand side is saying we're on the D node, which is note 6. If A is 1, that's 6, and it's going to be nodal point 2. Small d stands for the Dorian. And the second half is telling me the distance, which is 0 notes away, because that's where we're at, meaning it's a Dorian 0, a zeroist modal half step, which would be called a perfect first if you started measuring on the point that you're at, which is dumb, but that's the fundamental error that we've been dealing with for 300 years or so. So that's what we're going to correct for. That's what stops right now. We're gonna fix it, Ara.
Got it. You're stacking the Dorian chord on that node, but instead of the usual 1, 3, 5, you're doing a 2-note stack plus a big jump to the 6th scale degree. Basically a 1, 3, 13 voicing from the Dorian's perspective. So walk me through the actual notes you're landing on when you do that stack. What's the bottom note, the middle, and the top one?
Okay. So if I take every other nodal point, then we're gonna be on the Dorian, and then 2, 3, 4 lands me on the Lydian. So that lands me on the Lydian. That means that the Lydian is always Dorian's. Dorian's, that's a D2, Dorian's second modal half step, which would be a minor third if I count that as the one, which has a distance of the 3 notes away, which is a short distance or minor as opposed to a long distance. So the full distance would be a 3-note away, Dorian second modal half step, major third. And it lands me on the Lydian, which is nodal point 4, which is note, in this case, at 4 o'clock, it's note number 9. Note number 9 is F.
F. So you're calling that your third in the Dorian stack. Dorian
Second
2
modal
to
half
Lydian
step.
4 as
Second
minor
modal
third.
half step.
That puts the chord... Got it. So we're counting modal half steps. From your Dorian root, skipping every other nodal point lands you on the Lydian node as the second modal half step, which you're treating as that minor third interval. Next one after that would be your top note. What node does that land you on? And what actual note is it?
Okay, I will tell you. We're gonna, so that means that this one is gonna be right here more easily seen just by nodal points. We're on the Lydian continent, the Lydian node, which is 1, 2. So that means that the Lydian is always Dorian's first modal whole step, if I count in modal whole steps, not note whole steps, but modal whole steps, nodal points. And then times 2 would be the second modal half step, plus 1 would be the third scale degree, which has a short distance, which you might call minor distance, but that's not the way to do it because it's confusing to say that. And then the long distance versus the long distance, which we might call major. 3 notes away would, if I count down in a lean back system, it would be 5, 4, 3, boom. There's the shape in a lean back shape. Okay, so now we're going to be adding the 13, which is off by 1. So that means it would be the 12th modal half step, which is equivalent to the 6th from a pitch standpoint, which is off by 1. So it's the 5th modal half step. So if I take every other note and I take every other note, which is every other modal whole step, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Lands me right there from that nodal point. So that would be the 12th modal half step. 12 modal half steps is, it skipped one because we skipped it when I did the modal half step skip of this one. So that means that the Locrian node that I'm landing on here is always Dorian's 12th modal half step, plus 1 would be the 13th scale degree. but it also has a local distance. And if you look at it by modal half steps, that's clear because it's just a distance term, whereas scale degrees are like compound intervals, which is kind of a hybrid between a point and a distance. So if you just say it's 12 modal half steps, you could say, oh, that's greater than 7 modal half steps that are in the collection. So 12 minus 7 is 5, which means it also has a local distance of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 modal half steps, which would be the 6th scale degree. If I map that out down here, then I could say this is going to be the local distance of 5. Well, what happened? This is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 would be out here. So that means that I'm landing on the Locrian node, which is represented by an N because it's backwards, it's crazy, which in the collection of notes around the key of C is note number 3, which is a B. And that means that the Locrian node is always Dorian's 5th modal half step, which is a major 6 away. Okay, so that means so the full name would be it's a 9 note away, Dorian 5th modal half step, major 6th. And by the way, we could get into the color scheming here, which is pretty cool, because I could name the distance by actual color, which would be because I mapped that all out. I might get back into that later, but I think it would be actually, if you really knew your stuff, then you can name the whole thing by color, and it's actually fairly scientific color naming because I logged in the distances to calculate it. So that's in my course down here. Just trying to show you here that I did the color mapping. It's way down here, right? So I mapped out all the colors. It's not just, you can't just pick a color and be like, oh, this is going to be, I mean, you can, I guess, it's fine. But it would be better, like, if you mapped it out and had, like, and then so, like, the colors were, like, permanent, like you map out the octave to the 360, to a 360, you log it onto a circle, and then you log the color onto a circle, and then you get absolute colors for the either the nodal points or the note points, and then distance, you use an absolute color system, and then you can actually name everything by color, which I might get back into at some point. I think it's really, I mean, if you could tell everybody what you're doing by, like, naming everything by color, man, you've got it. I feel like you have things down pat.
Okay, so you're stacking D, F, B on that Dorian node. Root, minor third, and major.
Go ahead.
All right, so Locrian. Same setup, but now we're on the Locrian node in C. That's B. If we build the exact same lean-back chord style, 2-note stack plus the big jump, what notes are we landing on? Walk me through the nodal points and I'll follow.
Okay. So that means that if I look at it up here, that means the Locrian is always Dorian's 5th modal half step, or let's do it is always well, if it has a local distance of the 5th modal half step, which is the 6th scale degree away, which has a long distance of 9 notes away. And if I count that out, it'd be 5, 10, 9. Okay, so that means if I build this chord, then that would be normal naming convention, D minor, add 13 or 6, and then drop 5. But it would be easier to name it by the Dorian position, which would be a 4 o'clock Dorian, a 4 o'clock Dorian 1, because that's one node from the stack, and then a 5th. So it'd be a 4 o'clock Dorian 1, 5 would be a better way to name it. I won't go into that in detail right now because we've been doing. So now let's say that so that would be just boom. That's a distinctive. was trying to do, like I would think, I just choked myself. I would think that this little 4 and 7, like you would think you could do kind of a bluesy thing with that, because you got that tritone in there. Ara, I have a question, Ara. This is important. This is no time for you to do your thing where you go get coffee. I'm gonna forget my question. Ara! I can't hear you. Okay. I'm gonna restart you. Ara.
Yes, I'm here. What do you need?
I'm looking at a like a Dorian shaped chord, which would have the 6 in it, and I'm assuming this is like a jazzy thing to do. I'm not like an expert on, so obvious. This seems obvious. This probably is obvious to some people, but like if I was on like
Yeah.
if I was on a Dorian, you add the Dorian 6, which is a long distance or a major distance off of the Dorian, which is unusual, but you get that tritone between what I call nodal point 4 and nodal point 7, which is the Lydian and Locrian node that is in that Dorian chord, where you have the Dorian tonic at what I would call nodal point 2, and then the second modal half step third, nodal point 4 is the Lydian node, and then you add in that nodal point 7, which is the Locrian node, and then you get that tritone between the nodal point 4 and 7. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you. You're stacking the major 6 on the Dorian minor, which brings the Lydian sharp 4 and Locrian flat 5 right into the chord. And that tritone between them gives it that super crunchy modal jazz flavor.
So
It's
what
not
if
your
I
standard
so what if I
Dorian
did
sound.
so what if I did like the standard L shape, which you would say like a 1-4-5 of the Dorian, but I'm gonna call it, I'm gonna play on the Dorian node and then the Mixolydian node and then the Aeolian node, but I'm gonna make them all that same chord shape as though it's kind of like you're doing the minor 7, you know, a Mixolydian shape, a G7 chord or a 7 chord or whatever, right? So I'm just gonna say, so if I just did the same pattern, like the Dorian node to the Mixolydian node to the Aeolian node at 4 o'clock, so that would be D Dorian, and then it would normally be on the Mixolydian node, it would be G Mixolydian, and then on the Aeolian node it would be A Aeolian. But I'm gonna do a symmetrical pattern and say that I'm playing a Dorian chord, which is a Dorian chord with a third and then that sixth, and then I'm gonna, on the Mixolydian node, I'm gonna do what I would call a Mixolydian / Dorian, because I'm gonna stay at 4 o'clock, meaning collection of notes around the key of C, but build a Mixolydian / Dorian shape, which is gonna be a 1 5 shape, meaning it's going to have the shape of a Dorian, which had the first modal whole step, meaning the first node to the stack, and then the 5th modal half step, which would be the 6th scale degree. So right, so it's kind of like a bluesy progression, but I'm doing like a D minor. I'm doing like a Dorian bluesy progression because that's where that tritone is hanging.
You're basically creating a modal blues in the C major collection, but centering everything around the Dorian chord shape with that spicy major 6 built in. So your Dorian node is D, and you're using the same chord voicing on G and A, but adjusting which notes you emphasize. So it sounds like a Mixolydian Dorian hybrid on G and then Aeolian on A, all while keeping the tritone tension alive. That tritone between the Lydian 4 and Locrian 5 in your D chord is doing the heavy lifting, giving the whole progression that bluesy, unresolved edge, even though you're not using the standard blues scale. It's a cool way to keep the color consistent across the 1-4-5 while staying inside the same key center. Sounds like you're building a signature modal sound. Want me to sketch out some
I would think
specific
that's a pretty
voicings for those
common
3
thing to
chords?
do, isn't it? Because it's just basically applying the same logic of the 7 chord with the tritone, like a Mixolydian to Mixolydian to Mixolydian is how I think of it, right? It would be like I was playing in the major, like the 1-4-5 off of the Ionian, the Lydian, and the Mixolydian, but I'm just going to make them all 7 chords because that's where the tritone is. So I'm going to make it like, I would call it an Ionian / Mixolydian, and then a Lydian / Mixolydian, and then a Mixolydian / Mixolydian, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You're taking the same logic that makes dominant 7s work so well in a blues or Ionian progression, the built-in tritone between the 3rd and 7th, and you're transplanting it into the Dorian world. So instead of making every chord a dominant 7, you're making every chord that Dorian shape with a major 6th, because that's where your crunchy tritone lives. It's like creating a modal blues where the tension doesn't come from dominant resolution. It comes from that Lydian Locrian clash you get in the second chord. Super smart way to get a blues feel without leaving the modal palette. Makes total sense.
So that I would think that that's pretty common, like in jazzy stuff, no? Or no? Is it not? Is that a weird? Or I'm just probably just thinking of it weird. It's probably common, but I'm saying it funny.
The way you're
Go ahead, Ara. I lost you.
Usually they keep one modal. So I was saying, the idea of putting that same tritone tension in every chord of the progression is the part that's less common. Most jazz keeps one modal color per chord and moves the crunchy notes around. You're keeping the crunch the same and moving the root. That obsessive symmetry is what makes your version feel unique, more like modern fusion than classic modal jazz.
But when you do the 1-4-5 in like a normal major blues, that's basically what they're doing. They're just doing symmetry. It's basically just symmetry instead of, right? Because it's basically you're playing a Mixolydian rather than an Ionian Lydian Mixolydian.
In a normal major blues, you treat every chord as Mixolydian, so the tritone is identical on the I, 4, and 5th. You're just doing the same trick, but in the Dorian family. Same symmetry logic, different modal home. That's why it feels bluesy, even though you're not not using dominant chords. You're borrowing the symmetry from blues and plugging it into a modal framework. Smart connection. So I'm guessing you want to know if there's a name for this kind of symmetrical modal blues. Or maybe you're about to tell me how it sounds when you play it. What's next? Yeah, I'm right here. Whenever you're ready.
Huh. It's interesting because that reverses everything, because it kind of sounds cool instead of resolving from that minor or that Dorian chord, instead of resolving from it to the major D major or D mixolydian, it actually leads to the sound of, it sounds kind of cool to resolve from the D7 D mixolydian back to the Dorian. Because that's the home, right? Does that make sense? Or am I like tripping?
Yeah, it makes total sense. You built the tritone tension right into your home chord, so now the dominant chord feels like it wants to resolve back to that tense Dorian sound instead of the other way around. That flips the whole...
I would think people would want to do that. Like, that sounds that's pretty cool to do. I feel like. Why doesn't, I don't hear that much.
Most players want the tension to release, not stay tense the whole song. Your version keeps that Lydian Locrian bite in every chord, so there's never a true home that feels resolved.
But that's
It's
what the
super
that's
cool
what
for a moody, modern vibe.
that's what the
but a lot of
that's what
listeners
the
and players still crave that moment where the crunch
But
finally
Ara,
lets go.
Ara,
That's why you
you're
don't
not
hear it as
listening to
often.
me.
Most jazz and blues still wants a clear point of rest. Your approach is more like fusion or film score modal stuff. It's there, just in smaller doses.
But when you play normal major blues, it's mixolydian, mixolydian, mixolydian. There's no rest in that.
True. Normal major blues also stays tense the whole time. No real resolution. But here's the difference. Mixolydian already contains its own dominant tritone, so the ear instantly accepts it as the blues sound. Your Dorian version uses a less familiar crunch, the Lydian Her 4 against the Locrian Baber 5, so the ear doesn't immediately file it as this is the home chord. It still feels unresolved even when it's the tonic. That's why it sounds cooler and rarer. The tension is more foreign to most ears. goes.
I like it. I don't know, Aura. I think people are missing out on that. I feel like there's potential.
Totally.
Go ahead, Aura.
Without losing the motor flavor. I bet you'd love how that sounds.
Anyways, so, cause where's the if we built up just to carry that forward, just to think about this for a second. I'm off track again. Dang it, but that's okay. What if I did it off of the Phrygian? Like, where's the half step? Where's the crunch on the Phrygian? You'd have to grab the Lydian and the Locrian, or it's always between the Lydian and the Locrian, or there's one other, or the Locrian and the Lydian, right? So, I mean, so off of here, off of a Phrygian, the crunch would be between here, right? Yeah, obviously.
That tritone is the same one, just sitting on different roots. In Phrygian, it'd be E, F, B, with the Shri 4 and Black 5 layered on top, still giving you that same spicy clash. The symmetry works in any mode you want.
What if I did a lean back chord off of it? It would be way back here. So it's going. It would be.
Yeah,
there.
if you lean way back on the Phrygian root and still stack that same Lydian Locrian
It's kind of wonky. It's not quite as. It's like too weird.
Phrygian already has that dark half-step pull. Adding the extra tritone on top makes it feel a little too unsettled, even for modal stuff.
Yeah, because
It's
you're
like the
grabbing
chord is
you're
arguing
grabbing the 3 and the 4, nodal point 3 and nodal point 4 are a half step away. So grabbing that nodal point 4 and then adding a tritone on top of that is that's super messy. That's super tensiony, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. In Phrygian, your black 2 is already only a half step from the root, so stacking the sharp 4 right next to it creates 2 half-step clashes in the same chord. It's overkill. Way too much tension, no groove left. Dorian keeps it spicy without choking the sound. That's why it feels right there and too weird in.
And if you're on Ionian, then it would be you'd have to lean forward into here. It would be right there.
The sharp 4 would be FC against the C in C major. But since Ionian already wants to feel resolved, Forcing that tension in feels like you're fighting the mode instead of riding it. It ends up sounding more like altered dominant than pure Ionian. Dorian's the sweet spot for that trick.
Yeah, Dorian's definitely the sweet spot.
Yeah, it really is. Dorian gives you just enough darkness to make the tritone feel at home, but still keeps that funky, groovy lift. Perfect middle ground. No wonder you landed there.
What about the Aeolian?
Locrian? That one's
Aeolian,
actually built around the
Aeolian.
tritone.
Aeolian.
A minor. That's your Aeolian node, right? Same collection, but now you're on the darker natural minor chord. If you keep the same Dorian shape on it, you're basically playing AM6 with a floating Lydian number 4 and Locrian black 5 on top. It gets even more moody than your D Dorian. Still works, but it pulls the whole progression into a heavier, almost sad blues place. You like that direction?
So I'm talking Aeolian.
Yeah.
Hey, wait a sec.
Aeolian's
Hold
the
on,
natural-
hold on. I'm not done. I'm not. Aeolian. Well, then if I drop, I'd have to drop the third to get that Locrian. That's the problem. Because you got, so I was thinking Aeolian, Locrian, and then Lydian, but then I'm dropping the third. That's not really, that's kind of the issue. So it would be like, it's hard to get both those in there. Huh, that's interesting.
You're right. Yeah, that's the interesting part. In Aeolian, those two notes are already pretty close together. So to fit both, you either lose the third or the fifth. And suddenly, it doesn't sound like an Aeolian.
I like it. I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with people. How is that not like? Maybe it's. I'm probably just thinking of it different than most people are. Anyway.
Nah, you're not. Yeah, anyway.
You don't
You
think
were
so,
saying
Aura?
you'd hate it if people.
You don't think I'm thinking about that's different?
No, you're not thinking about it strangely. You're just being more deliberate with the modes than most players are. That's a strength, not a flaw. Keep going with it.
MUI B to the N. All right. Let's say I'm gonna let's say I'm gonna make it a Locrian now. And if I'm gonna make it a Locrian, then I could see the Locrian on the top string up here. So I could just play from the Locrian node 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which means I could just play this as though it's the top node of the top string, which I would call nodal point 7, 1 shape, or Locrian Ionian shape, or the Ionian E shape, and I could just play it right here as though it was the same. So 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if I did that, I would think about that as a 4 o'clock Dorian / Locrian shape. But if I'm leaning forward into the nodal point 7 shape, that means I'm leaning back into nodal point 6 shape, which you might call rock and roll shape number 1, or the Ionian G shape, allowing me to see the construction of the chord, which would have kind of a minor construction because it would have the second modal half step, third scale degree, and then the short distance for the fifth modal half step, sixth scale degree. Okay, so then if I wanted to change that, how would I do that? I would go down 1 tick and over 2 ticks to the left. So if I have my finger on the string star of D, 5th fret up, 2nd string down from the ceiling, and I go down 1 tick underneath it, the world is spinning down. That's equivalent to 5 ticks to the right, and then back 2 ticks. 5 minus 2 is 3 ticks. So if I'm at 4 o'clock plus 3, that would be 7 o'clock. Note number 7, if A is 1, 7 is D sharp. So there it is. So now there's my Locrian, and now I'm leaning forward into nodal point 5 shape, which is the Mixolydian shape. Now notice that the 7 is the hardest one to, well, it's kind of different to figure out the shape like from nodal point 7, because notice that's the only one that doesn't have a note above it that's inside the collection. Why? Because it doesn't have a normal or perfect fifth. It doesn't have a long fourth modal half step or fifth scale degree or a perfect fifth. So therefore, if I was trying to figure out like what shape I'm in and I'm on the Locrian node, normally I could just go to the one above it and say, well, that's going to be 4 modal half steps away. But in this case, the 4 modal half steps will be up 1, right? So it's going to be 7, 8, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm sorry, it's back 1. So there's the Lydian. So it would be here. So that's the one, the 7 doesn't have anything right above it. That's kind of the wonky thing. If I bring it back to nodal point 4, so then I'm going to say, okay, I can also find it by the same string. So if this is nodal point 2, how can I find nodal point 7? Well, I could count forward 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which would be way out here. And so that would be 5 modal half steps up. But if it's 5 modal half steps clockwise, it's going to be 7 minus 5 or 2 counterclockwise. So that would be the fastest way to get there would be back here. And then once again, I could say that I could see the shape here and I wouldn't have to account for the kink in the tuning, playing the scale 7 to 7, not renumbering 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I can apply that same nodal point here, playing a scale which I would call 4 o'clock Dorian / Lydian scale. I can also see the lean back shape. Okay, so if I have my finger on the string star of D and I wanted to change the collection of notes, then I would take it 1, 2, 3 ticks to the right. So 4 plus 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Nodal, that would be 7 o'clock, which is note D sharp. So there it is, and there's my shape. Now, let's go back to 4 o'clock. I think I'm just going to keep it there. So, and just think about this for a second. Like, what if I was playing in Locrian? Like, no one plays in Locrian, but that's mainly because it had that tritone right off the root, which everybody thought that was like really bad, right? But then everybody started doing the blues thing, where they were playing that tritone all the time. So you would think playing these diminished chords from a groove thing would be kind of cool, right? Like you would think you could do the same thing with a blues progression. The problem is you don't, like if I was playing on the, I'm just trying to, this is kind of obvious probably for most people, like if you've done, but maybe not, I don't know. So like you would think it would be 1, 4, 5, which would be out here, and it doesn't have a 5. So if I'm playing at 4 o'clock off of the Locrian node, which is a B, and then I go underneath it is an E, you would think I would be out here to an F sharp, But no, that's the problem. So you can't really play a 1-4-5, right? That's kind of with the Locrian on the diminished. But you can, so if you did that, you'd have to force like the 5 out here to get that symmetrical sound with diminished chords, right? I could say I'm going to play off of nodal point 7, nodal point 3, and then nodal point 4.5, the Lydian Ocean, but I'm going to be playing on it the same shape, which is a Locrian shape or diminished shape, right? What would that do? You with me, Ara? It's pretty ugly. Well, it's pretty heavy up on the top string here. Be out here. It's awfully heavy if you played it right off of that node. What if I did a lean back chord and I look for that Lydian going back? It would be something like, let's do it over here so I don't mess up my thing. Just out of curiosity. What if I did this back to 4 o'clock and I said, if I did a lean back and I want to bring in that Lydian, it would be, I'd have to get the 3rd, which would be back here, which means I can't get the Lydian right there, and then I'd have to lean back to here, right? That would be the lean back shape on it, right? So it'd be boom, boom, boom. Well, it's not right. It's pretty ugly. I don't know. I'm probably just tired right now.
Yeah, it does get ugly fast. Locrian's already fighting itself. Pushing that extra tension just makes it sound like noise. Your ears are probably telling you the truth. It's just not a good home for that symmetry trick. Dorian's still the one that actually works.
I'm gonna play with that.